And we're back from our commercial break. Here it is now, part 2 of my top 10 scary movies that don't stand the test of time. Alright, here we go. Number 5 is I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I actually still like the first I Know What You Did Last Summer movie. I think it's okay still. Not as great as I thought it was, but it's definitely still a good movie. And it, as a I guess clone you want to call it, but more of a movie inspired by Scream, I think it still holds up, and especially at that time period, it works. But I watched the second one, and I was hoping that it would kind of be able to have a good follow-up to the first movie. I mean, it's not going to be the exact same story because we already know what happened, and so you can't really do it again, and we know who the killer is. But I was kind of hoping there would be some sort of good twist to it and that we would be able to have a good movie. Unfortunately, when I watched it again a couple years later, I thought to myself, man, this is not as good as I thought it was when I first watched it. And there are some good actors in this movie. There's one actress I don't like at all. It's Brandy. I'm going to tell you, it's Brandy the singer. Brandy from the late 90s and I guess early 2000s. I never liked her music. I never liked her acting. Thought she was just bad all around. So that's the only down part as acting goes. But yeah, as far as a story goes and how things flow together, it doesn't really work as well as the first movie. Mainly because it doesn't have that element of who is the killer. You kind of already know, but it's just where's the killer at? And they try to do something similar to who the killer is by having the killer have an accomplice, but it doesn't work as well in this second movie than it does in the first one. And I'm not even going to go into the third I Know What You Did Last Summer movie because that's a whole different topic for another day, maybe. Number 4 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And I can kind of feel the hatred coming from the people watching this saying, what? That's a classic movie. How can you hate this movie? It's my list. Alright? First of all, I watched the movie. I know it's really old, but sometimes old movies are still good. I watched it and I thought, oh, this is a creepy movie. It's going to be really good. People have told me, oh man, you like scary movies? You should watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's such a great movie. All these years later, it's really good. I watched it and I was like, this is not as good as people hyped it up to be. It doesn't stand the test of time in a sense, because if it did, new people could watch it and still enjoy it, even if it's a time capsule type of movie. But this movie was not that good to me. I mean, it was just people running from a psycho and a chainsaw, but the psycho isn't as interesting or doesn't have the same sort of backstory that Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees has. I mean, even Michael Myers, his whole thing about him being a child killer was kind of interesting, and you saw him breaking out in the beginning of the first movie. Freddy Krueger was a child molester, and then that whole thing of how the parents got vengeance on him. And then with Mrs. Voorhees first in the first Friday the 13th movie, and then Jason in the second, even the third movie, he was an interesting character. It made you feel something for the character in a sense that you understood them, whereas this one is just a bunch of hillbillies. Yeah, it's just a bunch of hillbillies and not as interesting as the movies I said before. Also, this is kind of the granddaddy of the Wrong Turn movies that came out at the turn of millennium, and still, well, maybe not after that, maybe around 2003 or something like that, I believe. And still, there's 6 of those movies. And this is kind of the beginning of that sort of thing, because I saw this one thing where people were talking about the remake that came out in 2005, I think. I don't know exactly when. I said, oh, it's a Scooby-Doo episode. Yeah, that's exactly what the original is if you're really honest about it. And it's not that good as far as I can see looking at it from years later. Hey, it's my opinion. If you like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's on you. Number 3 is Halloween 3. Now, a lot of people would say this movie is not good because it doesn't have Michael Myers in it. I'm not going to mention that at all. I don't care. I'm going to judge this movie as its own thing, and I was always told that, you know, it's very different from the other Halloween movies. And then I watched it, and there were a couple things I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, first of all, the two main characters, the guy, the man and the woman, they hook up and have sex like 10 minutes after meeting each other. It's like, what the? I hate romance movies when they're forced, and I hate forced romance in movies. And this was completely forced. I considered putting this one in my top 10 worst movie romances, but I didn't. Maybe I should have. But there are so many parts of the movie that I just sit there scratching my head like, are you that stupid? Like, are you that stupid? You really think that was gonna happen? And the story had some good elements in it, but the execution and the way it was all done didn't really grab me, and it wasn't as interesting as the first two Halloween movies. Yeah, it's not as good. It's not that good, and I gotta say, the ending is pretty good, but it's kind of flat especially when it's followed by all this other crap. It's like, are you kidding me? That happened? Anyways, number 2 is Child's Play. You know, I had watched the Twilight Zone episode Living Doll with the killer doll, and that TV show made it seem like made you question, is the doll really alive? Is it protecting this girl? Is the guy, her stepdad, just going insane and it's all in his head? It builds a suspension that this movie, Child's Play, does not at all. I mean, you see the beginning, this bank robber and this murderer gets killed and transfers his soul into a doll. It's in a doll, and it's not even like, it doesn't even have the strength of a normal human being or anything like that. It's just a regular doll that his soul's in, and we're supposed to be scared of this doll. I watched this movie and they're like, oh. And again, this is one that people told me, oh, this was a scary movie. You'll like this one. It's really good. I watched it, I was like, are you effing kidding me? This movie sucks. Yeah, it's terrible. It's a bad movie as far as I'm concerned. Chucky is not scary. He's not interesting. He doesn't deserve to be elevated to the ranks of Freddy or Jason or Michael Myers, or even Ghostface from the Scream movies. He's not that good. And this movie, people really like it, but I don't get it. I saw it, and then it's just not good. And then the fact that it has, like, how many sequels? It has 4 sequels now. I saw the first two sequels, and again I was like, oh god, why am I watching this? This is crap. This movie is crap. And the less said about these series of movies, the better, because these movies are pretty terrible. But they're not number 1. They're not number 1. The number 1 scary movie that doesn't stand the test of time is Arachnophobia. Now, when I did my top 10 movies that don't stand the test of time, somebody mentioned in the comments about Arachnophobia. And then I was like, oh god, I haven't seen that movie in a long time. I was actually kind of scared of this movie because I hated spiders when I was a kid. A lot of us hated spiders when we were kids, and a lot of people still hate spiders now. You see the memes of the spider on fire alarm switch, and the caption's going, in case of fire, I guess we're going to have to die then, huh? Or a house getting burned down and the caption going, "I saw a spider, I got him." Yeah, people hate spiders, but this movie, when I went back to watch it again, it's just not scary. It tries for the jump scares and it doesn't succeed. Not to mention the final battle between the human and the spiders. They had to do so much just to make it seem like the spider could win against the person. It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, a thing full of wine bottles falls on the guy, pins him down, and now he has to throw wine bottles at the spider. It's like, oh, this is ridiculous. And when I watched it again, I was like, oh man, why was I scared of this movie when I was a kid? And probably because I was a kid, that's why I was scared of it, and I hated spiders. This movie, when I watched it, I liked it, but then I watched it years later, and then again when I read that comment, I was like, oh god, this movie's bad. Yeah. One good part is John Goodman, I believe, is the exterminator in this movie. He's a bright spot, but other than that, there's not really anything to this movie, and it's kind of a waste, to be honest. Yeah. So, that's my list. What do you think? What are some scary movies that you watch that you feel have not stood the test of time? And what's a movie that you think still does stand the test of time? That's what I want to know. I got one more Halloween themed video coming up, and there's something I got, the video coming up where I gotta get something off my chest. Not like that, pervs. It's about something that's been on my mind. So, until those videos come out, enjoy some scary movies. Later.